Tonight, the President returns to Abuja after spending 16 days in the UK for medical check. Says expectations from new police boss and service chiefs are high. No more duplication of police functions, Acting Inspector General of Police declares as he unveils his policing and crime-fighting strategies. Minister of Defense says killing of soldiers in Konshisha, Benue State highly disappointing, but vows the military will not be discouraged. An ex-US police officer, Derek Chauvin, accused of killing George Floyd, says he will not testify before the court as the defense rests their case. Plus, business, sports, news from Abuja, and later, international news from our London studios.
On business news tonight, rising food prices push Nigeria's inflation to its highest in 4 years as consumer price index increases to 18.17% in March.
On sports news tonight, Lagos-based side Vandreza FC announces its withdrawal from the Nigerian National League with immediate effect.
And from Abuja, Minister of Works and Housing threatens to publish list of contractors who fail to complete federal government projects.
The President arriving the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport in Abuja after spending about 16 days in the United Kingdom for a routine medical check. He is received by security chiefs and other top government officials. The President left Nigeria for the UK Tuesday, March 30, and his absence had generated reactions, particularly on the state of health facilities in the country. After the warm reception, the President responded to some questions from journalists at the airport, especially on his decision to appoint an acting Inspector General of Police while he was in the UK.
While in London, you appointed the new Inspector General of Police. What do you expect from him?
Well, we went through the system. There was a committee by the Minister of Police Affairs, and they gave me some names, and he happens to be the one chosen. And he knows his job. He has been in it for a long time. He went through all the training. He has the necessary experience. So we expect, we have high expectations from him.
The performance of the new service chiefs, Your Excellency.
Oh, yes. They have been in the system all the way. They know what is wrong. They know what is right. And I think they are doing their best. I hope their best will be good enough for Nigeria.
Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari. Now, with that expectation from the President, it appears gradual restructuring of the Nigeria Police is underway already, as the Acting Inspector General of Police, Usman Alkali Baba, today ordered the immediate disbandment of the satellite offices of the IGP monitoring unit in Lagos and Port Harcourt. The police chief also ordered the streamlining of the personnel profile unit at the fort's headquarters to not more than 50 persons. According to the acting IGP, these changes are part of efforts to restore professionalism, address citizens' concerns on rights abuses, and discourage duplication of police functions.
This is the inaugural meeting of the Acting Inspector General of Police with all the senior police officers from the rank of Commissioners of Police and above. This strategic meeting gives the police chief an opportunity to review the strategies that would help in restoring order and public confidence.
I must re-emphasize that the major task ahead of us is to address the threats of succession, banditry, kidnapping, armed robbery, and the other sundry violent crimes within the shortest possible time and change the narratives. And return our beloved nation to the path of peace, unity, and national security. The reality, however, is that more grounds need to be covered if we are to restore public confidence. I am confident that we can surmount this task, as the Nigeria Police is endowed with some of the finest, courageous, patriotic officers who have consistently demonstrated the capacity to step over institutional challenges to confront crimes.
He orders some reorganization in the force as a way of restoring professionalism and addressing citizens' concerns on rights abuse.
To our post-reorganization plan, as well as our commitment to return to the basic policing, I have directed the immediate reform of the IGP monitoring unit, which is one of the major complaints I have received as soon as coming into office. This involved the disbandment of the satellite offices of the unit in Lagos and Port Harcourt, the streamlining of the personnel profile of the unit at the force headquarters to a number not more than 50, the banning of the unit from undertaking any criminal investigation, including taking over cases from commands. Under the current dispensation, the unit will only operate within their original mandate, which is to investigate complaints of professional infractions that may be alleged against any serving member, and as may be referred to them by the Office of the Inspector General of Police.
The recent pattern of crime, which indicates an increasing threat to internal security, has been a major concern to both the security agencies and the public. Many in this hall are optimistic that the short and long-term strategies of the police chief would hopefully see an end to this trend as soon as possible.
Meanwhile, the Minister of Defense, General Bashir Magashi, says the Nigerian armed forces are deeply saddened and disappointed by the killing of soldiers in Konshisha local government area of Benue State, noting that the unfortunate incident will not discourage the military from carrying out its duty of protecting lives. He spoke today when he led the Chief of Defense Staff, Chief of Army Staff and other top military officers to pay a courtesy visit on Governor Samuel Otom at the Government House, Makurdi. He says government will not tolerate any action that will make Nigeria ungovernable. On his part, the Benue State Governor sympathized with the President and the armed forces over the killings and says he has lost sleep since the unfortunate incident occurred.
The situation the way it is, and that's why we are rushing. The Commander-in-Chief is not happy about it. Certainly, if we have time, we will tell you more what we think, what's wrong, and how our feelings are. But for this conference, I think we can stop at this. But what I will add is that I plead with the government to find out the perpetrators of this act and take a drastic action in order to restore the morale of soldiers throughout the country.
We must ensure that those who perpetrated this evil act must be brought to book. They will not find rest until those people, one, are identified and arrested, and all the weapons that were taken away are recovered from these criminals.
Staying with security, the military has dismissed reports that Boko Haram terrorists have overrun and are currently in control of Damasak town in Borno State. Military authorities described the story as blatant misinformation, but said there was an attack by the terrorists yesterday and they were effectively repelled by troops. The Director of Army Public Relations, Brigadier General Mohammed Yerima, says troops are in total control of the general area as seen in this video. He adds that the commander of 5 Brigade, Brigadier General S.S. Tilawan, has been driving round town earlier to assess the general situation. And 7 security agents involved in aiding and abetting banditry in Zamfara State have been arrested by police. The state government says the suspects, who have already been interrogated and confessed to the crime, have been sabotaging military operations in the state by sharing military intelligence, supplying arms and ammunition, military uniforms and other facilities to the armed bandits. One of the suspects was caught in possession of 20 rounds of 62 millimeters of live ammunition at the point of handing over to the buyer, one Kabiru Bashiru of Mania village, a suspected active bandit, after receiving an advance payment of 100,000 naira from the buyer. The second suspect from Sokoto State was caught by detectives supplying military uniforms and kits to suspected bandits, while 2 other suspects were arrested as they were supplying bandits with ammunition and military camouflage from Lagos. Staying in the north, no fewer than 13 persons have been killed in Guyuk local government area of Adamawa State following a communal clash between 2 border communities of Adamawa and Gombe states. The Executive Secretary of the Adamawa State Emergency Management Agency, Mohammed Sulaiman, says the communal clash is a spillover from the crisis that erupted in neighboring Gombe state between the Waja community of Gombe and the Lunguda community of Adamawa State. 3 villages of Walu, Falu and Lamza were razed and several people injured as a result of the clash. In the meantime, the security situation in the country is also a concern for the Nigeria Governors Forum, and they want a special review of the security crisis for an in-depth understanding of the enormity of the situation. This formed part of the decisions reached at the end of their meeting, where they also decided to engage federal authorities to find a resolution to the insecurity challenges. Briefing journalists at the end of its meeting in Abuja, Chairman of the Forum, Governor of Ekiti State, Mr. Kayode Fayemi, raised the concerns following incidents of attacks on correctional facilities in Imo State, the brutal killing of soldiers in Benue, as well as other acts of violence and insecurity across the country.
The forum has expressed its worry that it's time for us to revisit comprehensively the nature and depth of this security crisis, which would have gotten worse if states had not been taking the actions they've been taking individually and collectively. It is the steps taken at the state level that have managed to reduce the depth and the enormity of the security challenges. Nonetheless, it's still a worrisome development for us, and we feel we will need a special review of the entire gamut of the security issues that we're dealing with, and further engage the federal authorities, both at the political level and federal authorities at the security level, in order to deal with these multifaceted challenges of security that we have faced. Our committee responsible for engaging with the representatives of the legislature and the representatives of the judiciary will meet them tomorrow to convey the position of the governors to them.
In part 2, after the break, the River State Governor warns against disrupting local government polls. Plus, Nigeria must not play the ostrich. Governor Obaseki warns as he urges the federal government to take steps and avoid worsening the current economic challenge. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If it's just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. The president returns to Abuja after spending 16 days in the UK for medical checks, says expectations from new police boss and service chiefs are high. No more duplication of police functions, Acting Inspector General of Police declares as he unveils his policing and crime-fighting strategies. Minister of Defense says killing of soldiers in Konshisha, Benue State highly disappointing, but vows the military will not be discouraged. And ex-US police officer Derek Chauvin, accused of killing George Floyd, says he will not testify before the court as the defense rests their case. In Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike has warned residents of the state against disrupting the local government election scheduled for Saturday, April 17th, as he has therefore directed the police authority in Rivers to arrest and prosecute anyone caught causing trouble during the poll. The governor says the police and the Rivers State Independent Electoral Commission have been adequately supported by the state government to discharge their duties effectively. The governor also announced the restriction of human and vehicular movement from midnight of Friday, the 16th of April.
I wish to assure you that the state government is very much alive to its responsibility to creating the enabling environment throughout the state for all voters to peacefully exercise their civic responsibility at their polling units. Consequently, vehicular and human movements in, within, and out of the state and the local government areas is hereby totally restricted from the midnight of Friday, 16th April 2021 to and until the end of polling at 5 p.m. on Saturday, 17th April 2021, except for persons and vehicles strictly on essential duties with genuine and valid identifications. At any rate, voters also bear legal duties to conduct themselves peacefully throughout the election and refrain from any act or behavior that could cause a threat to the peaceful conduct of the election, as election can never be a do or die affair.
Edo State Governor Godwin Obaseki has been reacting to comments made by the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, after she denied that the federal government printed 60 billion naira in March to support fund allocation to states. In a series of tweets released on his handle today, Mr. Obaseki says, "While we do not want to join issues with the Federal Ministry of Finance, we believe it is our duty to offer useful advice for the benefit of our country. The Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Mrs. Zainab Ahmed, should rally Nigerians to stem the obvious fiscal slide facing our country. Rather than play the ostrich, we urge the government to take urgent steps to end the current monetary rascality so as to prevent the prevailing economic challenge from degenerating further. We believe it is imperative to approach the Nigerian project with all sense of responsibility and commitment and not play to the gallery, because ultimately time shall be the judge of us all." The minister had told journalists at the Federal Executive Council meeting on Wednesday that the governor's claim was sad and untrue. Meanwhile, an economist and member of the Presidential Advisory Council, Mr. Bismarck Rwani, has been giving his thoughts on the disagreement between the governor of Edo State and the Minister of Finance over the alleged money printing. Mr. Rwani was a guest on our political program, Politics Today.
Total money supply in Nigeria is about 38.74 trillion naira, of which cash in circulation, cash, is less than 7%, and it's 2.78 trillion. That is what is printed. Then there's what we call narrow money, which is M1, savings accounts and some other things. It comes to 16.55 trillion. Then we have what they call broad money, or wider definition of money, which is M2. It takes it to 38.23 trillion. And total, which is M3, which includes fractional reserves and credit, extra pseudo money, it comes to 38.74. So the reality is that if you take total money supply in Nigeria of 38.74 and cash in circulation is less than 10% of that, you will see that it is not true, or it is not factually correct that people go to Abuja and bullion vans are printed and people start coming out. However, when you consider how the budget is funded, and if the budget is funded in such a way that it is not backed by depositors or investor commitments, then the investment banker is right to say that you have engaged in what we call ways and means advances. Ways and means advances, which is not supported by investment by depositors, is an elegant way of saying that money is being printed.
Give us a sense of what this means. Mr. Obaseki is right and Mrs. Ahmed is also right. Is that right, Mr. Rwani?
Okay, let me put it this way. Mr. Obaseki's fears, if nothing is done to actually embark on fiscal consolidation, you may end up with what we can call fiscal recklessness. Minister Ahmed's position is that, yes, we are aware of our responsibilities. Yes, revenue that is shared is revenue earned, right? And at times we borrow to cover our deficit, and that borrowing is done responsibly by by issuing paper.
And to other stories, former Imo State Governor Rochester Okorocha has been released from the custody of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, after he was invited for questioning over alleged corruption charges on Tuesday. His media aide said in a statement that Senator Okorocha was not bothered about the number of hours spent in the EFCC custody, but was keen in having the opportunity to address the allegations contained in the petitions written against him by the Imo State government. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission is yet to release an official statement on the session it had with the former governor of Imo State. And the Lagos State Governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, has flagged off the construction of the 37-kilometer Red Line project, which is expected to commute about 500,000 passengers daily. The governor says the rail project speaks of the realization of the intermodal transportation system, and the first phase, which is the Red Line, will come from Oyigbo to Agbado to link the Lagos-Ibadan modernization project. Our correspondent Titilayo Aberowo has more.
Road connectivity is a major issue in Lagos State, with the attendant gridlock, which most times leave people spending hours to their destinations. The plan towards improving the mode of transportation in Lagos is why Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu is here to flag off the construction of the 37-kilometer rail mass transit, the Red Line project.
As he performs the groundbreaking for the Red Line,
it is a 37-kilometer rail route from Marina to Agbado.
The first phase of the project is a 28-kilometer stretch all the way to Agbado on a dedicated lane which will end at the Oyingbo terminal.
The Red Line project will provide public transportation for no less, and this is just the first phase, than 500,000 passengers per day in the first phase, increasing to circa 1 million passengers per day once the full project is completed.
This Red Line project speaks to the first pillar of Governor Sanwo-Olu's team's agenda, traffic management and transportation. And he says the project will be delivered by end of 2022.
The Red Line, which would share track with the Lagos-Ibadan Railway Modernization Project, whose implementation starts here today, is divided into two phases. The Red Line is a 37-kilometer railroad with 12 proposed stations. The first phase, which will cover from Oyingbo to Agbado with 9 stations. 3 of the stations will be constructed within the Lagos-Ibadan rail corridor by the federal government. We project that the Red Line will move the first set of passengers, by the grace of God, within the last quarter of the year 2022. In addition, we are simultaneously working on bringing the phase 1 of our Blue Line to passenger operation also within the same time frame.
Over 200 properties are to give way to this project, and the state government present checks to the affected persons. The Lagos Mass Transit Rail began in 1983 during the late Alhaji Lateef Jakonde administration, and Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu says is determined to complete the Blue and Red Line that will make Lagos livable as a modern megacity. Titilayo Aberewo, Channels Television News.
And over in Bayelsa State, what was meant to be a fact-finding mission has turned to a confrontation as indigents of Biseni community there prevented the House of Representatives ad hoc committee investigating oil spill cleanups and remediation from getting to the affected area. The protesters, mostly women, accuse an aide to the governor of not executing electrification contract awarded to him, an allegation he denied. The lawmakers were in the area to see the damage from an oil spill which occurred April 7, 2021, but they may have to wait a while longer to perform this function.
These are members of the Federal House of Representatives ad hoc committee investigating oil spill cleanups and remediation in oil-producing states. They are on a working visit to Bayelsa State to inspect oil spill sites in some communities, beginning from the Okodia Zarema clan. The spill occurred just last week, and as a result, farming activities in the area are now suspended.
When spills like this occur, it will take the multinational companies even more than a year sometimes for them to respond to do remediation activities, which is against the NOSRA Act, which is against the acts regulating oil operations in Nigeria. So we are calling on our representatives who are here, the members of the National Assembly, to ensure that the multinational oil companies are brought to book.
The delegation moved to Biseni Clan, a neighboring community also grappling with land pollution. On arrival, they are denied access to the affected site as women in the community stage a protest over absence of power supply and clean water.
Since our life, we don't get light. Suffer don't too much. Today, I say if they don't give us this light, we don't go agree. After without light, no retreat, no surrender.
They also allege that a special advisor to the governor on oil and gas, Frank Otele, who is an indigene of the community, failed to execute a contract for electrification in the community.
This NEPA light from Iju to Biseni, this contract was awarded to him. So he is the cause of this problem. Now today he said he wants to follow the government official to go into this our forest. We the women will not agree because he is the cause of this problem.
Reacting to the accusation, Mr. Otele explains what transpired.
I don't have any connection with the step down. Another contractor is handling the step down, but then which they know the contractor. The contractor have met with them. The contractor have even met with them with government. Contract has done PRO. Contract did everything. So I don't know anything about that contract. I don't even know the contractor.
Members of the committee leave the inspection in Biseni community for another day. However, they continue to call for an intervention on the absence of power supply in the area.
When the news at 10 returns, we have more stories from our Abuja studios. Plus, rising food prices push Nigeria's inflation to its highest in 4 years as consumer price index increases to 18.17% in March. That's on Business News. Please join us again. And over to our Abuja studios where Linda Kigwe has some more stories. Hello, Linda.
Hello, Millicent. Pleased to have you with us in the nation's capital. The Minister of Works and Housing, Mr. Babatunde Fashola, says his ministry is contemplating publishing a list of defaulting contractors who failed to complete federal government projects. Mr. Fashola issued the threat during a meeting with the Senate Committee on Ethics and Privileges at the National Assembly today. The Minister of Works and Housing, Mr. Babatunde Fashola, is here before the Senate Committee on Ethics and Privileges to testify on a petition leveled against his ministry and a construction company by the Redeemed Christian Church of God, RCCG.
The whole truth and nothing but the truth.
RCCG had in a petition accused the Ministry of Works of making payment of 151 million naira to the construction company for the rehabilitation of the Ife-Wara Road in Osun State. The church says it constructed the road as part of its corporate social responsibility and wants the construction company to refund the money to the government. However, Mr. Fashola says there is no basis for the petition.
We are urging you to also hold that there is no proof to support the position that an unjust claim was made by the contractor or paid by the ministry between 2016 and 2019. We're also urging you to find that the payments that were made to the contractor in 2011 were made in accordance with the Public Procurement Act.
The petitioner, Pastor Niyi Adebanjo, makes a U-turn.
Honorable Minister, please, on behalf of Pastor Niyi Adebanjo, I'd like to apologize to you for whatever this has brought to the government under your watch. Now, that, however, that apology does not in any way remove the fact, which is the core of this petition, that Cartier Construction Nigeria Limited should be made to refund every single kobo collected. And I'm glad that the Honorable Minister has already hinted at that.
Mr. Fashola then reads the Riot Act to the defaulting federal government contractors.
But just to let members of the public know that we're not sitting down and twiddling our thumb against contractors who haven't kept their side. We're also compiling a list of contractors who will inevitably publish a blacklist, but there has to be justification for proceeding to that level based on legal advice. So,
members of the committee agree with the minister that there is a need to strengthen the laws to offer stiffer punishment for contractors who fail to execute projects. Ogun State government has launched a digital economy and empowerment project to accelerate internet penetration in the state. The public-private partnership project is expected to attract big investors from around the world, as well as leapfrog the state into the fourth industrial revolution. According to the state governor, the project would see to the laying of optic fiber cables to the 20 local government areas of the state, improve ease of doing business, and help to solve human and economic challenges.
His Royal Majesty, the Alake of
It is the launch of Ogun State Digital Economy and Empowerment Project, an initiative expected to strengthen the state economy and also create new opportunities for the people.
The governor of Ogun State, Prince Dapo Abiodun.
The project, according to the governor, will see the laying of optic fiber cable to the 20 local government areas of the state, improve ease of doing business, and also help solve human and economic challenges.
Is the backbone for the ICT revolution in our dear state. This will further enhance the ease of doing business in our state, and recent events have shown the various roles of digital technology in solving many human challenges and transforming every aspect of the economy.
The Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, represented by the Executive Vice Chairman of the Nigeria Communication Commission, explains why states should embrace digital economy.
The digital economy supports governments in plugging revenue leaks and enhancing revenue generation. The traditional approach to government citizen interaction is limited in its level of efficiency and potential reach. The digital economy brings government closer to the people and makes interaction more efficient.
Let it sound louder for Mr. Vice President.
The Vice President, who joined the launch virtually, applauds the initiative, saying the Ogun State government has taken a leadership step in digital technology.
The digital revolution that this project will bring will be a game changer in every aspect of the socio-economic life of this state. Nigeria is blessed with some of the brightest and best minds in the global innovation economy, and improving access to broadband provides an opportunity for them to take on their peers from across the world on a more level playing field.
The state government says the launch of this project is part of its deliberate effort to reposition the state's economy and apply innovation and technology in solving economic and commercial challenges.
Look forward to continuing to work with the state.
To the southeast, Anambra State Governor Willie Obiano has presented a health support grant of over 288 million naira to faith-based hospitals in the state. This is in line with the tradition of the present administration in supporting and improving healthcare delivery in the state. 197 million naira will go to the Catholic Mission with 42 recognized hospitals, while the 26 healthcare facilities managed by the Anglican Communion will take 61 million naira. The Pentecostal denomination has only one hospital and it received 30 million naira.
Major players and invited guests in the health sector in Anambra State gather at the Professor Dora Akunyili Women Development Center, Awka, the state capital, to witness the disbursement of health grant of about 200 million naira to 69 faith-based hospitals. In his address at the event, the State Commissioner for Health, Dr. Vincent Okpala, uses the opportunity to highlight some of the achievements of the state government, especially at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic.
It's a record that when you look at health system delivery in Anambra State, all the basic needs of healthcare delivery, the 6 functional units, a lot has been achieved in each of these units.
Governor Willie Obiano acknowledges the contribution of the mission hospitals, which according to him have been top-notch.
The amount given out today is 288 million 500,000 naira.
He then goes ahead to present the checks to the benefiting churches. And some of them step forward to express gratitude to the governor for the gesture.
With this gift of money, huge in this sense, the mission-based hospital will now go and uplift the standard of the hospital, both in treatment, provision of facilities and equipment, and this will invariably reduce also the hospital bill.
PFN will use this money judiciously. Automatically, we're going to do that. We know that the lean pulse of the state government, out of that, we're able to be given such an amount of money, and we cannot afford to misuse it.
This health grant, many believe, will not only impact the people in the urban areas, but also those in rural communities, as well as others in the hard-to-reach areas where some of the faith-based hospitals are located.
And that's all from Abuja. Now to Teniola for business news.
Thanks a lot, Linda. Welcome to Business News. Nigeria's inflation has refused to slow down, hitting a 4-year high in March, rising to 18.17% year-on-year. Data released today by the National Bureau of Statistics shows that inflationary pressures gained 0.82% from February's 17.33%. Food inflation, which is the major driver, was higher at 22.95% as the country continues to witness a surge in the price of food commodities. The data shows that core inflation stood at 12.67%, urban inflation rose to 18.67%, while rural inflation was higher at 17.60%. Further breakdown of the report lists Kogi, Bauchi and Sokoto as the states with the highest inflation year-on-year, while Cross River, Kwara and Imo State recorded the slowest rise in inflation. Kogi, Sokoto and Ebonyi State also recorded highest food inflation, while Bauchi, Kebbi and Abuja recorded the slowest rise. The federal government says the issuance of new SIM cards will resume on April the 19th after suspending the activity for 4 months due to an audit of subscribers' registration database. A statement by the Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy explains that the move follows the approval by President Muhammadu Buhari for the implementation of a revised national digital identity policy for SIM card registration. It adds that the use of national identity identification number for registration is compulsory for SIM acquisition and activation, SIM replacement, new SIM activation for corporates, and Internet of Things, machine to machine, amongst others. The statement says that the Minister Issa Pantami has also directed the Nigerian Communications Commission and the Nigerian Identity Management Commission to ensure that the provisions of the policy are strictly followed by all operators and subscribers. Well, let's check in on the stock market now. The bull fails to sustain its Wednesday presence at the local equities market today, with the all-share index closing 0.17%. Here's Laddie Williams with more.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Report. I'm Laddie Williams. Well, today's trading session seems to be towing the path of Monday and Tuesday as the bear makes a comeback today. The all-share index dipped 0.17% with 319 million units traded, up about 14.89% from yesterday. Deals traded stand at about 4,158. Just like the midweek session, the sectoral performance was mostly negative as 3 out of 5 sectors we tracked declined, while consumer goods and oil and gas posted gains. And it appears after last week's negative trend, Guinness Nigeria led the gainers chart up 10%, while UAC led the losers chart. The trio of Fidelity Bank, Access and M-Benefit led the top trades by volume. And as yields continue to rise in the fixed income space, it is expected that investors in the equities market will continue to trade cautiously. So we can only wait to see how events play out. And that's the Stock Market Report. I'm Laddie Williams. It's back to you.
And that's business news tonight. It's back to Millicent for the rest of the news at 10.
Thank you, Taniola. Derek Chauvin, the former U.S. police officer accused of killing George Floyd, has waived his right to testify as the defense rested their case following 2 days of testimony. Closing arguments are set for Monday, after which the jury will begin deliberating his fate. He has pleaded not guilty to the charges of second-degree murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter. Let's head over to our London studios, where Simon Pusey has more international news and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. The US government is set to issue a wide range of sanctions against Russia in response to what it calls cyber attacks. The move would be retaliation for cyber attacks aimed at the US, including alleged interference in the 2020 presidential elections. The sanctions target more than 30 Russian entities and include the expulsion of at least 10 individuals from the US. In a call with Russian President Vladimir Putin, Mr. Biden said the US would act firmly in defense of its national interests. Protests have gathered at the Brooklyn Center police station in Minnesota, hours after authorities charged the officer who shot and killed Daunte Wright. Kim Potter, who fatally shot Wright, has been charged with second-degree manslaughter. She was arrested and later released on a $100,000 bail. Some protesters threw bottles and other projectiles over a fence surrounding the building, and at least 24 people have been arrested. Denmark has ceased giving the Oxford AstraZeneca COVID vaccine amid concerns about rare cases of blood clots.
We have intensively investigated.
It is the first country to stop using AstraZeneca's COVID-19 vaccine altogether. The move is expected to delay the country's vaccination program by several weeks. Danish officials said that all 2.4 million doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine would be withdrawn until further notice. Hong Kong is marking its first National Security Education Day, aimed at promoting a sweeping law that Beijing imposed on the semi-autonomous territory last year. Schools celebrated with patriotic displays of flag raising. Members of the Hong Kong police performed military marches in the same style as police and soldiers in mainland China for spectators. They also held a series of anti-terrorism drills. The new law has drawn criticism for curbing rights and freedoms. The legislation punishes anything Beijing deems subversion, secession, terrorism or collusion with foreign forces with up to life in prison. UN officials say the humanitarian crisis caused by volcanic eruptions on the Caribbean island of St. Vincent will last for months. It's thought nearby islands, including Barbados, Antigua and Bermuda, could also be badly affected. About 20,000 people have been evacuated from their homes since La Soufrière volcano began erupting last Friday. The UN is setting up an international funding appeal, as 4,000 of those displaced are now living in 87 shelters. North Koreans have marked the 109th birthday anniversary of the state's founder, Kim Il-sung. Rare images show Pyongyang residents laying flowers in front of the statues of the state's founder Kim Il-sung and late leader Kim Jong-il on Mansu Hill. The Day of the Sun, which is the birthday of current leader Kim Jong-un's grandfather Kim Il-sung, is considered the biggest holiday of the year in North Korea. Eritrean soldiers have opened fire on civilians in Ethiopia's embattled Tigray region, killing 3 people and wounding at least 19. Amnesty International said the unprovoked attack took place in the centre of Adwa town in the Tigray region. They said Eritrean soldiers were shooting from the backs of military trucks. The human rights watchdog is calling for an international investigation into this and other human rights violations in Tigray. And finally, the Notre Dame Cathedral is holding up and should be officially out of danger 2 years after a fire devastated the Paris landmark. Workers are currently consolidating the vault of the cathedral, where once stood the long spire which fell through the building during the blaze. French President Emmanuel Macron undertook to restore the cathedral within 5 years, but to date, most work on the site has focused on making the building safe, including clearing toxic lead from the roof and spire that melted in the fire. The completion date for the restoration and reopening of the cathedral is set for 2024. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Many thanks, Simon. Vendresa FC has announced its withdrawal from the Nigerian National League, the NNL, with immediate effect. According to a statement on the club's official website, Vendresa says the league governing body has demonstrated enough resolve that its transformation agenda is not in any way needed in the second-tier league. The Lagos-based side adds that it has invested on branding promotions that encourage followership by deploying manpower and equipment to promote the league. In the UEFA Europa League, Manchester United have set up a semi-final clash against Roma with a comfortable 4-0 aggregate win against La Liga side Granada. Arsenal impressively swept aside Slavia Prague to reach the semi-finals with a fine away victory in the second leg. The Gunners will face Villarreal, managed by former Arsenal boss Unai Emery, in the last 4. And the semi-finals hold on April the 29th. Ukraine has launched a vaccination drive to inoculate its athletes against the COVID-19 ahead of the Summer Olympic and Paralympic Games. A total of 30 athletes set to represent the country in Tokyo received their first jab of the vaccine in front of cameras at a hospital in the capital, Kiev. And that sports news is back to you, Millicent.
Thank you, Aitunde. And the main news again. President Muhammadu Buhari today returned to Abuja, the nation's capital, after spending 16 days in the UK for medical check. The president told journalists at the airport that his expectation from the new acting Inspector General of Police and the service chiefs is high. Also today, the Minister of Defense said the killing of soldiers by militia groups in Konshisha community of Benue State is highly disappointing. He also vowed that the military will not be discouraged. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Millicent Walker. Have a good night. Stay safe.